After 31 years of being a forester, I really thought I had done it all. Then came a phone call from some helicopter pilots looking for a forester to accompany them on a patrol of electric lines. They had contracted with the New York Power Company to look for hazard trees that threatened to hit their high-tension wires. It would take the whole summer and span the entire state. I wasn't going to pass that up. They offered to pick me up right in my hometown, in a big field behind the bowling alley. That drew a bit of attention from my neighbors. I was tempted to greet them dressed in a sharp business suit, carrying a briefcase. Or maybe even dressed like a rock star, carrying a guitar case. That would have gotten some chatter going. We'd basically fly low and slowly over the mapped-out power lines. Any tree that was dead or leaning, or growing too close to a wire, got recorded. You'd hit the button just as the copter passed over the offending tree. I even made this little holder for the iPad because I was paranoid about dropping it when they removed the doors on a hot day. I wasn't much of a shutterbug up there as I thought I would be, because while flying the lines we were pretty busy watching and punching in data. But it did take me all over New York State. This has been my home for almost 30 years. I have hiked and driven over a great deal of the state for work and play. But from the air, it's a whole new perspective. You get a real census of the wildlife, spotting countless deer, turkeys, coyote, and foxes. It's a different experience seeing a flying bald eagle from above. We even saw a few bears. We passed over the Buffalo Bills Stadium, Cornell University, the site of the original Woodstock. I had no idea there are so many solar farms around. Surprising for a state that isn't known for terrific weather. It was also sobering to discover how many prisons there are in the state. It's dramatic to thread the needle between windmills. I don't know how many times we passed over the Finger Lakes. I'd see boats in my old fishing spots. It was downright distracting to patrol lines that went across the famous Catskill trout rivers. We'd fly over rooftops of mansions in Westchester County and the reservoirs that feed New York City. Even startled some skinny dippers in the process. One thing I have to mention is how many illegal marijuana plantings we saw. No pictures to show, but the pilot had spent a summer flying around down south, spotting them for the police. So he developed an eye for finding the plants. They were never obvious to me. He'd say, "Look at the dope behind the house down there," and I'd try to pick them out from the tomato plants or bushes that always seemed to surround them. He explained that pot plants have a particular shade of green and a unique fuzzy appearance that are unmistakable once you learned it. Also, there would often be a path leading to them from the person watering and tending to them. He told me stories about guys who would clip actual tomatoes to the limbs to disguise the cannabis, or alternate rows with Christmas trees. One guy actually chained a pet bear near his patch to scare away interlopers. The ingenuity was unbelievable. I never got to where I could spot them myself. If you've never flown in a helicopter, I find it less dramatic than flying in an airplane. You don't experience the acceleration during takeoff and landing, although we did make some tight turns when we had to go back and have a close look at something. Most of the time we were pretty low to the ground, but climbed to maybe a couple thousand feet when transporting to that day's division. I compare cruising along to be similar to riding in a boat. It wasn't scary and there weren't any white-knuckle incidents. When the weather was bad, we didn't fly. So the whole summer seemed to build up to our final flight, which was a 2-day trip to the Adirondacks that finished up our patrol for the season. It was fitting to save the best for last. Such beautiful landscape. I wanted to hike up every mountain we saw. The camera just can't capture the experience of flying through mountain passes with a cliff on either side. I casually asked the pilot if he thought he could land on a flat, rocky mountaintop. He said no problem. By the time we made the return trip home right through the highest peaks, it almost became a dare to do it. But we just couldn't find one that was flat enough to make an attempt. Bummer. But I'll end this video with a montage of the most breathtaking footage I managed to get.